Hey everybody, it's Matt. And this is I don't know, fifth or sixth or seventh message that I have put out there during these times of lockdown. Maybe give you a little break from the monotony. Today's message, I really want you to understand, is the most important message of all the messages I'm going to give you. It's what I believe is really what's lacking in the world today. It's the answer to all of our questions. Yes, it's faith in Jesus Christ, but how do we come to that faith? How do we fight this fight? And let me just start off by saying I had a lawn tractor, belt broke. And it was all a serpentine belt. Ran all through the bottom of the tractor. You know, and I could have jacked up that tractor and tried to figure out how to put that belt on by myself. Would have taken me hours, maybe days. But you know what I did? I went to this. This is the user manual. Okay, the tractor company came up with a user manual for my tractor. Okay, a user guide. And then I turned specifically to the place where it had the design of the belt. And I was able to tell, because I read the manual, how to put the belt back on easily and quickly and simply and painfully. I didn't have to catch my fingers or bang myself. It was an easy job because I followed the manual. Point being is, God's given us a user manual for life. Okay? It's this, right here. It's called the Bible. All right, and I'm talking about the Bible, King James Version, New King James Version, NIV, the Bible. Okay, you need to sow this into your hearts. And everybody says to me, "Well, it's too difficult, Matt. I don't understand the words. I don't understand." Well, this morning I'm going to give you the keys to the kingdom. This morning I'm going to give you the keys to unlock the door. First, I want to show you. That how seriously I take this word. But first of all, you have to realize how seriously God takes his word. God esteems his word above himself, is what he says. God puts his word above himself. That's how holy this is. And that's how important it is that we sow it on the tablets of our hearts. We pray first when we study. Lord Jesus, write these words on the fleshly tablets of my heart. I just want to show you something real quick. I've been through this Bible cover to cover 12 times, word by word, verse by verse. And I want you to notice something interesting about my Bible. I'm not turning to any particular page or anything, but I want you to notice something about my Bible. Okay? If I turn, you notice, no matter where I go in this Bible, every word is scrutinized. Every word has been read, has had a notation through it. Okay? Every single word. Okay? Now, I'm going to just tell you something that made it a lot easier for me. When I lived in California and God cured me from alcohol, I discovered a minister named Chuck Smith over in Calvary Chapel in Costa Mesa. I was living in Irvine at the time. And this man, when he gave a message, it was like eating a full course meal. It was just awesome. And so he has a methodology of preaching the Bible cover to cover, word by word, verse by verse, from the original Hebrew or Greek. And so I started going to his church every week and getting fed. And then when I moved home, I continued to go word by word, verse by verse through the Bible with Pastor Chuck. And I have about 6 different versions of the Bible. Some were on cassette tape, some were from his program, The Word for Today, some are the C2000 series, some are the C3000 series, and so forth. And I've been cover through the Bible 12 times with Pastor Chuck. Okay, Pastor Chuck has since passed away about 6-7 years ago, and his ministry has just fallen apart. It's disgraceful what's happened to his ministry, but that's another story for another day. But you can still be taught by Pastor Chuck, and I'm going to show you how today, okay? Do this for me. I want you to take 5 minutes out of your day and do your Bible study with me. Every day, I take about an hour, and I do a Bible study. And I let Pastor Chuck lead me, word by word, book by book, verse by verse, through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. And he goes from the original Greek or Hebrew, so there's no question, okay? And then at the end of this message, I'm going to give you the information about how to get these materials for free. It's all for free, okay? But having gone through the Bible 12 times with Pastor Chuck, you know, I was interested in being a minister. I wanted to go to seminary. So after church, Pastor Chuck used to stand outside his church and shake hands with people. And I asked him, I said, Pastor Chuck, what do I have to do to become a minister? Where do I go to seminary? And he looked me in the eyes and he said, Matt, all you have to do is go cover to cover through the Bible with me, and you've got all you've ever needed. As a matter of fact, it's better than seminary. So I took him on his word. The first time I went through the Bible, it took me 7 years. And then I went to Amazing Grace in Woburn under Pastor Frank Tamilio. I served for 2 years under Pastor Frank. And then he determined that I was worthy to be ordained, so he ordained me as his assistant minister, assistant pastor. And I have the documentation to prove that. And to this day, I'm still in touch with Pastor Frank. There's a Bible study every Friday I attend. He's in his mid-80s. But I'm going to tell you that this is the key. This is the foundation. This is the building block. What you're going to hear today is what you need in life, period. Okay? So what I'd like to start by doing is just playing 5 minutes of Pastor Chuck's Bible study, just so you can see what he's like. Okay? So he's not some big green monster that's going to be raining down thunder and brimstone and everything. I'm going to play some of Pastor Chuck for you. 5 minutes, okay? I'm going to have my clock here. I got 5 minutes I'm going to play. I didn't pick a scripture. This is just where I am today. It just happens to be where I am. I want you to hear him speak for 5 minutes. And after listening to him speak for 5 minutes, you tell me whether you can stand to go through the Bible cover to cover with this man. He's a very humble man. He's just like your uncle. He's a regular guy. He leans on the table like everybody else. So I'm going to play 5 minutes. I'd appreciate if you'd listen to it. And at the end, I'll tell you how to get a hold of these sermons for free. Okay, here we go.
Now, of course, you have, again, Elijah, who was caught up in a chariot of fire.
This is, by the way, Hebrews
and
11.
Enoch, a couple of men who missed the appointment.
This is Hebrews 11, and it is the, I'm not sure what verse, but what I do is I take my Bible and I follow through with Pastor Chuck, and I go through word by word with him as he says these things, and I make notations. Okay, so I'm going to open the Hebrews. Right now I'm trying to memorize the Bible. I've been through it so many times. I don't go through physically, and I'm trying to memorize the Bible. I can't read. I have dyslexia, but I do have a photographic memory. Paula will tell you. So now I'm trying to listen, and he's in verse 5 of chapter 11 of the book of Hebrews right now. Okay, so if you want to follow along, the 5 minutes starts now.
It is appointed unto man once to die, and after that the judgment. But these two men apparently missed their appointments. Enoch was a prophet. Jude quotes one of his prophecies that is not recorded in the Bible. Jude said, Enoch the seventh from Adam said, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment upon the earth. Enoch, the man of faith. Now it is interesting that Enoch begat Methuselah, and he named him Methuselah, which more or less means, in the year of his death it shall come. Perhaps a prophecy concerning the judgment of God upon the earth with the flood. Because if you'll add up the years, you'll find out that the flood came in the year that Methuselah died. So if that were a prophecy in his name, it was fulfilled, because in the year of Methuselah's death, the flood came. His testimony was that he pleased God. And then the writer goes on to say, without faith, it's impossible to please God. How God is pleased when we put our trust and our faith in him. Just pleases God. It would seem to me that it would naturally then follow, the converse would be, God is displeased when we don't trust in him, when we doubt his promises, when we live in fear and anxieties. Surely throughout the Bible we are encouraged and exhorted to trust in the Lord with all of our hearts, not to lean to our own understanding, to put our faith and confidence in the promises of God. Trust in the Lord. Over and over we're exhorted to trust in the Lord. And it pleases God when you put your trust in his promises. I think that sometimes when we say, oh God, help me to believe you. Lord, please help me to believe you. I've often wondered how God looks upon a prayer like that. If I would say to my grandson, who is going to be 16 this next year, son, on your 16th birthday, Grandpa's going to get you a car. Now, I've gotten all of the rest of the grandkids' cars on their 16th birthday, so I'm sure he's got already the hint that it will probably happen. But if I would say, son, you're going to be 16 this next year, and on your 16th birthday, I'm going to give you a car. If you say, oh, Grandpa, help me to believe you. Help me to believe you, Grandpa. I would think, what's wrong with me? You know, why can't you believe me? Have I given you false promises before? Have I, promised wild things and never come through? And here's God giving us all these promises, and so often we say, oh God, please help me to believe you, Lord. Please help me to believe you. Well, why can't you believe it? And so, without faith, it's impossible to please God. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, first. And second, he must believe that God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. God does exist, and God does reward those who diligently seek him. Noah is the next one who is mentioned. By faith, Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world and became the heir of righteousness, which is by faith. Now, we have a contrast. Enoch was not, because God translated him. As such, he became a type of the church that is raptured before the judgment comes. The flood was God's judgment upon the sinful world. God looked upon the world, he looked upon man, and saw that every thought and imagination of man's heart was only evil continually, and it repented God that he made man. God saw that the wickedness on the earth was great, and the earth was filled with violence. And so God prepared to judge the earth, but there was a man who walked with God. His name was Noah. And God told Noah to build this large ship, gave him the dimensions, and commanded him then to bring the animals, 2 of each kind, into this ship, that they might survive the great flood that God was going to send upon the earth. And so Noah was about 120 years in building the ship. And what an interesting illustrated sermon. People, no doubt, came all over. They probably ran tour buses to see this huge ship that this eccentric old man was building out in the...
Okay, that's 5 minutes of Pastor Chuck. Awesome. I've probably listened to the words of this man more than any other human being in my lifetime. And some of you who know me out there would probably say this stuff must be good if it got Matt Vaccaro to sit still for 5 minutes. So, especially my wife. I'll sit still for an hour and a half and listen to this. It's just amazing. Every single question that you have will be answered in detail with illustrations. I guarantee you. So now let's get to it. How do I get this word? What you need to do, you need to go to the internet. You have to go to your search engine and search Pastor Chuck Smith space capital C 2000. Pastor Chuck Smith C 2000. And then they give you choices on your search. You click the Blue Letter Bible. And when you go to the Blue Letter Bible, it'll say C2000. Click on C2000, and then it'll have all the books of the Bible listed. Start wherever you like. Start wherever you like. I suggest Genesis 1:1. And just click on Genesis 1:1 and listen to Pastor Chuck's first message on Genesis 1:1 today. And then listen to Pastor Chuck's message on Genesis 1:2 tomorrow. And then 1:3 the next day. And 1:4 and so on and so forth until you get all the way through the Bible. You will get all of the answers to all of your questions. I give you my personal guarantee, Matt Vaccaro. Okay? Now, this is free. The one thing I would say about it is it's time dated. It's not spiritually dated. This message was made probably back in the mid '80s, but the message is still the same. The Bible said there's nothing new under the sun. The next series that he did was C3000, which I believe you can buy for around $50. It comes on a flash drive. C3000 is about $50. You don't need it. It's the same message. It's the same message. I mean, he may give different examples that are based on who's president at the time or so on and so forth, but it's the same message. You know, this C2000 works fine. It gets to the meat of things. So if I could say one thing from me to you today, it's study this word. This is God's user manual. You show up in heaven, we have no excuse. He gave it to us. He gave us his user manual. Pick it up. Read it daily. Teach it to your children. Weave it into your hearts and souls and minds. For me. For God. For a better life. For a better world. That's all I can say, people. And so I just want to close this message by just reminding you that God, his word in this battle, this spiritual battle, he says it's like a sharper than a two-edged sword, his word. It's how we battle, by coming against things with his word. When Jesus was tempted in the garden and he came to Satan, Satan tempted him. Jesus went toe-to-toe with Satan out of scriptures from Deuteronomy. Just right back at Satan and just chopped him down by using the words of the Bible and Deuteronomy. That's what we have to do. And that's what I'd like you to do, because I love you. I love you. And I care for you.